This is episode 32, recorded on November 16th, 2021. My guest today is Jered Cherry, Senior Managing Director, co-founder of Positive Adventures and Onyx Offsites. Wondering why he's on the podcast? Well, Jered deals with fear in his personal life as an expert rock climber, traveling all over the world, and in his daily life as he leads and trains both youth and corporate clients through difficult, fearful, or anxiety-provoking experiences. I've witnessed Jered's outstanding work personally, and I look forward to sharing that with you. It's Not What You Think podcast is available on YouTube and Spotify, so please like, comment, share, or subscribe. That support is very important to us and enough to continue to allow us to produce this show. Our interviews are with people who may have opinions different from yours or mine. So while we keep an open mind, remember, it's not what you think. Hi, Jered.
Hey, Marty.
Welcome to It's Not What You Think. How are you? How was your week?
Week was great. Yeah, can't complain. Sun's out. I'm up here in the mountains up in Bishop and been doing a lot of climbing and learning how to fly fish and all kinds of stuff.
Now, is that a window behind you or is that artwork? It's hard for me to tell.
That is a window into artwork.
Okay. So I am, as our viewers can tell, we know each other. I'm excited to have you on the podcast because I've said, as I said in my intro, which I haven't recorded yet, that you're an avid and expert rock climber and your professional career, you shake your head, yes, I like that. And your professional career in outdoor education makes you a perfect guest. That doesn't mean I'm going to pay you more, by the way, just because you're a perfect guest. Plus, I tell everyone they're a perfect guest. So I just want to put that out there. So, and in rock climbing, as we both know, we've talked quite a bit about this, we work with our own fears. You're hundreds, thousands of feet off the ground, one mistake, life and death. And you and the folks, your team, your companies, Positive Adventures and Onyx, both companies help other companies and individuals really learn team building situations, not only getting together and working as a team and synchronicity and all that, but also taking people a little bit out of their comfort zone and really teaching them. And what I love about that is it's an evolution for the individual. It's not just, the company is better off, but those people walk away from your programs enriched. So I don't even need you for this podcast. I'm just going to keep talking about you. Is that okay?
That's great. That sounds great.
You teach your clients how to deal with unknown territory. I'm very inspired.
You're hired.
I've seen all this up front. So tell us a little bit about your rock climbing background. How'd you get into it? What do you love about it? Does that question sound familiar?
It's like we've done this before. My rock climbing. Geez, rock climbing changed my life. I started climbing in 1999. The year after I graduated high school, I had a college roommate who was like second, third day of college. And he was like, hey, let's go climbing. I used to climb in high school. And we went out, and I guess the rest is history. It's been a major part of my life. And even, people ask like, who are you? What do you do? I would say being a climber is a big identifier for me. Friendships and trips I've taken, and just the whole community really in my life is based around this like kind of ridiculous sport of climbing rocks that is now becoming more mainstream, and so I think more people are understanding it and are interested in it and inspired by it. So it's been a great journey, and I'm really grateful that in college I was introduced to it. And
so what is it about rock climbing per se that you love about it? What is it like brings you back the next time? Is it, and go ahead. Sorry.
I think a couple things. I would say it's twofold. I mean, the physical component of it, right? Like the moving meditation piece of it, like when you go out and you're climbing and you're up there on the wall. I tie into a rope. I know a lot of people are familiar with the form where you don't tie into a rope, but you can't think about anything else. Like you're focused, you're in the moment, you're solving a problem, you're breathing, you're attempting to do something that you think is maybe too difficult for you or whatever it might be. So I think the meditation piece really provides like a stress relief for me. Like my mental health is so much better when I'm climbing a lot versus times in life where I'm working a lot and not getting to climb as much. And then I think the second piece is just community. I think friendships and like when we travel and go places, like my partner, she always says, like, I know someone in every place across the country, and they're pretty much all rock climbers. I mean, that is like, it's, I guess it's a little one-dimensional, but at the same time, I feel pretty grateful that it does have a great community, even though the community I think is changing quite a bit as the sport grows. Like I think it's pretty special in terms of the camaraderie and support of climbers, which I know you've experienced too.
Yeah. So yeah, well said. I agree. I have the same feeling. People come to climbing for lots of different reasons, and that whole moving meditation thing, because you have to focus. If you're not focused, you get hurt. So
Yeah.
it's a very good motive. Fear is a great. Getting hurt's a good motivator.
Yeah.
So can you elaborate on your experience with fear when you rock climb, and what kinds of situations make you fearful?
Yeah. I think, a lot of people say, like, if you're not familiar with climbing, right, you look at it and you think it's this really dangerous sport, and people are crazy for doing that. It's like what you hear. I think fear, from my perspective from climbing, sometimes is a fear of failure. So if you're like, right now I'm doing a lot of sport climbing, right, which is like where the bolts are into the rock, and rather than climbing something really tall, you're trying to climb something difficult. So it's hard movement packed into 100 feet, right? So sometimes the fear of failure, like trying things that are too hard for you and feeling that sense of defeat, like you can't do it. You maybe have tried this route 5 or 6 times and you're not able to do this one move, and you come down frustrated and flustered. So I think there is definitely a fear of failure sometimes with climbing. And then I guess the other piece of fear is just like the adrenaline that you get from the climbing experience. And sometimes managing the fear, if you have potential for a big or a long fall on a certain type of route, I think is something where I still get nervous, even though I've climbed however many number of routes. I still get nervous anytime I'm going up to lead a hard pitch. And so like controlling that fear and anxiety is a big part of it.
Mm. Yeah, the fear of failure is really interesting because you said to me, look, I'm afraid he's going to shoot me in the head with a gun and I'm going to die. I say, okay, well, that kind of makes sense. Well,
Yeah.
fear of failure is really, which I've experienced as well, is really in some ways an illusion, because I think I should be able to climb so-and-so route. I'm a rock climber. I'm this kind of rock climber. We have all
Yeah.
these stories we tell ourselves in our mind as our identity. And the stronger that identity, the more it's threatened by failure, because if I fail, then those stories can't be right.
Right.
So, and I experienced that as well. So that I find that interesting
And it's like
because,
measuring yourself against other people too, like you
mm,
go to the climbing gym and you're there and you're like, I don't want to look like the beginner. I don't want to look like the person who this grade is hard for me. I think that there is a social pressure dynamic to it too, around the fear component, right? It's like
mm,
you see all these people climbing so hard on social media and stuff like that. So,
right, right. See, I don't have any of those problems because I suck.
nah, come on. You still measure yourself against grades.
Okay, moving on to the next question. So I know about 2.5, 3 years ago, you were in an almost fatal accident. It's good that I said almost because
Yeah.
I wouldn't have someone to talk to today. Can you share with us what happened?
Yeah, it's interesting, like that you introduce it as an almost fatal accident, because I don't think I really processed that when it all happened. People brought that up, but I never really thought about that. That could have been the outcome. Yeah, it's scary. It definitely is scary to think about. So, yeah, about 2.5 years ago, I was climbing in the Sierra Mountains, in just on the outskirts of Yosemite National Park, on a mountain called the Third Pillar of Mount Dana. It's like a classic, everybody wants to do it when they come here to the Sierras. And yeah, it was a lesson in many things. To kind of sum it up, the peak itself is not very difficult to climb in terms of for my level of what I climb at. And it's not a very long route. It just happens to be really good and in a really beautiful place. And so kind of headed out on a summer day with a climbing partner to go climb this peak, and wasn't feeling like it was going to be a very hard climb for me, was thinking, oh, this is going to be a great day, pretty easy, really enjoyable. And when we got out there, there was a lot of people on the climb. So it's very popular. So there's 3 or 4 parties up on the route. And we kind of felt like we were going to be behind them, and wanting to climb a bit faster. So we started to kind of rush, right? Like we were feeling this sense of impatience, and we were waiting on a ledge for quite a while for a party up above us to continue climbing. And so getting really impatient, and remember saying to my climbing partner, hey, just give me the rack, give me the climbing protection. I'm going, like, I'm going to get up there, and didn't look at the topo map, and kind of went up on this pitch, and there's an area spot where you're supposed to go left, or you can continue straight, but the straight part is a lot harder and a lot more dangerous, and made the wrong decision and went straight instead of left, and ended up falling about 30 feet. The first thing that hit was my lower back or butt onto a ledge. And I just remember being in like screaming pain. Like I knew it was really bad, really fast. At the time, we were probably 300 to 400 feet up on a wall with another 400 to 500 feet to go above us. And like, I couldn't move, I built an anchor to secure myself. And while I was doing that, I remember just like this like nausea and feeling like I was gonna faint or pass out. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like we're up here and I can't climb this thing. And if I have to lower down this thing and hike out from this mountain, I don't know if I can do that either. I was lucky enough where the party above us on the route had an emergency call device called an InReach. And the climbing party above us, the guy ended up being he was a paramedic on a rescue helicopter crew in Colorado. So this gentleman, needless to say, snapped into action and called search and rescue. Search and rescue came in and tried to pick me off the cliff with a helicopter. They weren't able to do that. A couple more hours went by, and they hiked to the top of the mountain another way and lowered down our rescue basket, raised me to the top in the rescue basket, and then a military chopper took me to Fresno Hospital. So all in all, was on the wall with some broken bones for about 8 hours, and I broke my sacrum and my heel. And yeah, I guess, 1 or 2 feet in one direction or the other, or inches, and it could have been a broken back or a broken femur or something where there could have been a lot of internal bleeding. And so I got pretty lucky, and there was a lot of lessons learned for sure.
Yeah, the part of the story I didn't hear was that after you got hurt, after you fell, that you had to create an anchor so that you can, be safe where you fell, as opposed to, that I didn't realize that. Makes sense, but I can imagine the pain and the suffering you're going through while you're trying to, it's not over yet. I gotta keep myself from falling another few hundred feet.
Yeah.
And what I like about that story, for me, what I find a teaching moment for me, because I always think about these incredible situations, is I know when I rush, I always make, at work or turning the computer on, no big deal. But if I'm rushing around the house, I'm going to stub a toe. I'm going to bang into something, whatever. If I'm driving, then everything gets magnified. If I'm climbing, then so the whole rush, there's nothing wrong with going fast, but rushing for me is my mind is there, but my body's here. Mm-hmm. And that's where that, what else do you think came to your mind about, what did you learn? But
yeah, I think definitely not being in the moment. And I think definitely not like taking for granted where I was and how amazing it was, regardless if we were moving slow or moving fast.
Right.
We're on the side of this beautiful rock face, like with views like that people would want to see one time in their life. And instead of just like enjoying being up there and being grateful for being able to be out with friends in the mountains, like feeling this sense of like, we have to accomplish this or we have to do this. And yeah, so just not being grateful for the position you're in, like wanting more, I think was a lesson from it for sure.
Yeah, that's phenomenal, phenomenal lesson. So how do you climb now, given that experience? Do you have same fear, different fear, no fear, different flavor, given what you've gone through?
I think that there's a lot more fear involved in my climbing these days. I mean, like from we've climbed together a bit and from my career managing outdoor programs, like I'm pretty risk adverse, like risk management is a big part of my career.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, thank you for reminding me that
Yeah.
your nickname, we kid around about it, but for the 10 years or so that I've known you, was always Captain Safety.
Right, which apparently I
And
can't use that nickname anymore.
they took it away.
Yeah, they took it away.
They took the hat away. You no longer
Yeah, they
allowed
said
to
I
wear
can't
that hat.
do that anymore,
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
that to me is also quite amazing, because you are such a safe, conservative, outdoor person, and
Right,
you've instilled that in, I'm guessing, thousands of people. And here, it just means, hey, look, no one's perfect, and
right.
things. So we learn. That's kind of how I look at it. Yeah, go ahead. You were talking
But
a
I
little
think
bit more.
I think there's a lot more. I think that there's quite a bit more fear involved in my climbing. Like I used to climb a lot of granite, like traditional style of climbing, which for those who don't know is where you place the protection as you go up, and more adventurous, more route finding, more situations where you could get hurt if you make a mistake versus other forms of climbing. And in the last 2 years, I haven't done too much of that style of climbing. Like it's almost like a mild form of PTSD, right? It's like you have this image in your mind now of, if I fall here, this is what happens. This is what it feels like. This is what a recovery could be like. This is the toll it takes on the people around you, and your life. And my accident was serious, but not as serious as many out there. So now that you have that image, right, I think it's harder to get over those fearful situations. And for me, I'm less likely to want to be in them again. So that's something I think about a lot, is like, do I want to overcome that fear and get back to, climbing more alpine climbs or things that are challenging in different environments? Or do I just want to have climbing be more fun and athletic? And right now it's just more fun and athletic because, yeah, it's just, I'm scared,
Yeah. Oh,
more than I was.
I'm with you totally. I understand completely from a very personal perspective as well, because I've been there, done that. Yeah, not that you're here for my advice at all, of course, and you've a lot more experience than I do, but I would suggest that you don't set yourself a goal to overcome the fear. Who needs another goal?
Right.
But if you see a nice route to climb and it's a traditional route, I would just go way, way, way below what you're capable of, because, and I know Arno Illner, a great coach, he was on the podcast, he talks, and other people do also talk about comfort zone, and you talk about it all the time. It's like you stay in your comfort zone, you don't learn anything, you could go to sleep the rest of your life. You go way too far out of your comfort zone and you get fear, panic, you learn nothing other than how panicky and how high anxiety can be. But but what I'm suggesting is maybe, you do that type of trad climbing if you like it, but just don't try to push yourself, because that's not how you gain your confidence back.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. We've been out and climbed some easier stuff and it's fun, but then there's the part of me that's like, man, that was too easy. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Like,
Of course.
I'm used to that. I was used to that, like challenging myself, and pushing myself. So,
Right.
Honestly, like at first I was more concerned about it, and now I'm just sort of going with the flow, like whatever my mind is saying, like this is what I want to do in the sport, like I'm just doing it. And maybe this summer, like when it gets time again to climb in the mountains a bit more, and I'll be more into it, but I'm not too worried about it. I'm more just trying to be grateful that I was able to learn from something and have it not be something more serious, because the whole event was serious, but ultimately the injuries that came from it were pretty minor considering like what happened. Like I got pretty lucky.
Well, you healed.
Right.
You healed. You had great care, and you healed. Yeah, yeah. And the good thing is, like you said, that's you're doing now what you want to do, and you're in the moment now. So it's like, what else is there to? Who cares about something that may or may not happen in the future?
Yeah.
So that's wonderful.
But I think, the last lesson I was going to say too, for people out there who don't climb, it's like people would always ask, like, are you going to climb again? I mean, like I was like July, August, November, 4 months later, I was like back in the gym climbing, because I think whatever it is, if it's something that you love to do and it's a big passion for you in life, it's really important to make sure that you make time for it and you don't let other circumstances or things happening take that away from you. I think I meet so many people who are like, I used to do this, I missed it so much. I used to do that, I missed it so much. I don't have time for it, right? It's like, if it's a priority and it's something really important in your life for your mental health and something you're passionate about, like make time for it, and make sure it's something that you continue to do, because I don't know, I don't want to be 60 and regret that I stopped doing something that I loved.
Yeah, that's just what I was going to say. Is you mentioned 60, and I'm in my low 60s, very low 60s. Some people use what's called death as an advisor, because I know I only have so many years left. When I was 30 and 40, I was going to live forever. You don't even think about it. But then as you get older and older, you realize, this is going to end at some point. So you make decisions based upon that. So your death is going to advise you. And you actually had, of course, a run-in with death, and now you're using that as an advisor as well, which is don't put it off. Why put it off?
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. Most fears in today's world are based upon a misperception of reality or the future. So, and the fear that, a lot of us have is, well, this is what could happen, that what could happen. Well, it's like, but it's not happening now. Is what we're experiencing valid? Is it true? Well, or is it an illusion? And I think climbing does that, because we have these, especially in your case or everyone's case, we have these images of what could happen.
Yeah.
In our case, it did happen. So it could happen again. It's not some kind of false narrative.
Yep. In the outdoor industry, we call that perceived versus actual risk, right? Like we perceive risk, and that risk is what participants in our programs learn from, whereas the actual risk is very low, right? So like at Positive Adventures, we do a lot of ropes courses, which are like, up in trees or on telephone poles, 40 or 50 feet in the air, doing like obstacles basically, right? And so participants are like fearful, but realistically, like the situation that they're in, the likelihood of them getting hurt is so low. And that's a great environment to learn, versus an environment where there's actual risk, like you're driving down the I-5 freeway, weaving in and out of cars to get to an appointment that you're rushing to, right? There's a big difference from the two, and we can learn a lot from experiences that we put ourselves in with that perceived risk component.
For sure. Yeah. It's high. Yeah. That's the beauty of what Positive Adventures and Onyx do, is it is totally controlled. Yeah. So therefore, what's in our mind is really not valid. It's not true, but it's in our mind. So now we have to kind of get over that illusion. I don't know if I told you the story about this great Lama crossing a glass bridge in Malaysia, a Tibetan teacher, Tsoknyi Rinpoche. Rinpoche was a precious teacher. And he tells a story about crossing this extremely high bridge. I actually saw a picture of it, and it's kind of nerve-wracking glass bridge. So it was all see-through over this big, huge chasm. And it's like the end of the bridge. You can't see the end of the bridge. That's how far away the other side is. And he gets onto the bridge with, I think, a few of his students, and he's totally racked with fear. Here's a guy who, meditated for hundreds of thousands of hours, whatever it comes to, and his body locked up and he couldn't move. And then, of course, he was able to crawl his way and get through it. But at the same time, there's hundreds of people on the bridge just walking normally.
Right.
No problem. So, so he coined this term, which I really appreciate, real, but not true. What he's experiencing is real, but it's not true because it's an illusion.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people maybe walk into those courses, some of the courses you teach the same way. Yeah, you feel fearful. Let's recognize, let's see that, but let's explain and understand to our mind as well why it's really quite safe.
Mhm.
And when I teach, yeah, go ahead.
I think people battle with that all the time, whether it's a glass bridge or, you know, did that person like me or not like me, or am I stressed out or not stressed out, or whatever it is. I think it's a big human battle for sure.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I'm going to show you, let's see how good I am this time around. A couple of pictures of a couple of people we know. Let's see if I can find him real quickly, please, please, please. Maybe not. I was going to show you pictures of Alex Honnold climbing without a rope. And I may not be able to do that. Okay. The third time we do the podcast.
What, you can't share your screen?
I don't have the pictures readily available, which means I'd have to search for them. And 8 minutes later, and then I'm going to get yelled at by my son. So it's like, okay, let's just edit out the last minute or two. So, but of course we know, Alex Honnold is a great climber, and he climbs without a rope. And unfortunately we're missing the visual, but he's hundreds or thousands of feet up, no rope, on a teeny tiny, ledge, which we've all been before with ropes on. And I always ask the question, when I show that picture to classes that I teach on fear and anxiety and things like that, is how did he get there? What did he do to get there? Of course, he climbed there, but in his mind, what did he do? And he's a guy that just trains over and over and over again with a rope before he actually tries to attempt to do it without a rope. And he's totally calm when he's climbing. He's not freaking out like we would potentially, or others might. So I appreciate his mentality, not just, oh, look what he does, but look at the preparation that he's done to do that. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, I think that, yeah, I think preparation is extremely important, right? Like, so I do a lot of public speaking, right? Like I speak in front of audiences all the time. And I think a lot of people have a huge fear of public speaking, right? So the more you practice and the more you do it, the less fearful that situation is. So you don't even need a metaphor of like, can I climb 1,000-foot cliff without a rope and not be scared?
Right.
Because for me, no matter how many times I did that, if I was him in his position, I think I would be scared and nervous. I think that is sort of like an extreme example, but probably resonates with people, right? But I think like preparation and practice for whatever it is you do in your craft is really important. Podcasting, the more you do podcasting, the better you're going to get at it, and I think that people expect sometimes things to come really easily for them, right? Like this instant gratification culture that we have. And so, yeah, it's like we're not delivering new messages for people, but maybe the reminder is like anything we do that is new, we have to do it a lot to get good at,
Yeah, oh, for sure. And I know as well, when I was doing a lot of martial arts, days or weeks before a tournament or a class, I would be so anxious. Once I was in the class or in the tournament, I wasn't thinking, I wasn't fearful. I was just like, I was there.
Right.
But that anticipation of what could happen, or whether it's my ego or actually physically getting hurt. So that I found that interesting. And I think the same is with, I'm guessing the same is with him, because he feels fear, but once he's in it, he's so focused that it's, I don't want to say it's not a problem, but it's less of a problem because of his preparation and his focus at the time.
Definitely. And I think there's a lot of people that out there in the world who have things that they want to try that are outside of their comfort zone, right? That could be like leaving their job and going to a new job, or that could be, I want to learn how to rock climb or climb a mountain. But my sense is that people don't like being a beginner at things. And the older we get, the less we like to learn new things and suck at them, which most things you want to learn, you're going to suck at for a while. Like I was telling you, I'm learning how to fly fish. Like, oh my God, it's so frustrating. There's parts about it I love, but I'm not good at it, and so it's less fun right now, but I know I want to get better at it. And the only way to do that is to put in the time and take your lumps on the head, right? Like you're in San Diego, right? I lived in San Diego for a long time. So many people I would meet would be like, I want to learn how to surf. And I'd be like, well, do you have 6 months? Because like that's how long it's going to take. And you're going to have to take 10 big waves on the head and get used to that before you learn how to surf. But yeah, I think our culture is so much instant gratification and fear of failure that people miss out on a lot of cool stuff.
I think it's an outstanding point. I never thought about that. It's like, plus you watch all these YouTube videos of these great climbers. It's like, oh, I want to do that. But then you get out there and you can barely do something that's super, super easy. And then you realize this is a lot harder. I'm not going to be where that guy is unless I do it for 10, 20, 30 years. So I think being shown and putting these people up on a pedestal who can do such amazing things. So it looks apparently easy.
Yeah.
And then we try to do it and we, in our minds, fail, even though I don't like to use that word. And it's not failure because you went out and tried it. So I think, yeah, our society, that's a great point. If I can't do it now, then forget it. I'm not going to do it. If I can't be the best, I can't be like him.
Yeah, for sure. And even like when you teach meditation, right? So even
Mhm.
people that are learning to meditate, they give up because they're like, I'm not good at this. I can't do this. Like I can't sit cross-legged in a frozen river for 3 hours and meditate. I would have been trying it for 10 minutes. It's like,
Well, what I love about that is something that I tell people when I teach them how to meditate. First of all, I love people when they come and they say, I can't do it. I tried it for 10 minutes and I can't do it. I love that because the fact of the matter is that by virtue of the fact that doing it, that is success. People think success is, oh, I had no thoughts for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I had less thoughts. That's got nothing to do with it. By virtue of the fact that they do it, I say, hey, I'm going to give you homework. Here's the deal. Come back in a week. If you meditate every day, you get an A. If you don't meditate, you don't get a grade. Meditate twice, you get an A plus. Here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying if you meditate with 7 minutes of thoughts and 3 minutes, it's a B minus. It's like, no, everyone's always interested in getting a grade. So you want a grade? I'll give you a grade. Do it. If you do it, you win. Same thing. You go climbing or whatever, or surfing, you do it, you're a winner. Doesn't really matter so much. Certainly in meditation, doesn't matter. You get the benefits.
yeah.
And with climbing and surfing and et cetera, you get the benefits too. You go out there, you experience something. By experiencing something, you get these incredible benefits.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a symptom of the everyone gets a medal culture for sure. Like I see it, like we haven't talked too much about positive adventures, right? But in pre-pandemic, we take about 3,000 to 3,500 kids outside a year. It's a lot of kids. We see a lot of behavior patterns. And one of the things that I see the most of that's changed in the last 10 years in working with youth, even longer than that, I started working with kids when I was like 17, right? It's like there is a fear of failure, looking bad in front of other people, not being good at things. And that is systemic. And I think that is making people want to live in a bubble even more, because they're not willing to look foolish in front of other people or look bad at something or whatever it might be. And it's a bummer because I really think that's how you have to experience the world, is like this sense of, if I want to try new things and do new things, I'm going to not be an expert at them in the beginning,
Yeah, for sure. So when you do that stuff with Positive Ventures or with Onyx, it's
Yeah.
probably people with a lot of fear. How do you handle that, or how do you train your colleagues to work with those kinds of kids or adults? Can you, maybe give us a few examples?
Yeah, with the fear component specifically.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, you used the metaphor, right? That you said you had another guest that brought up, which is the comfort zone, challenge,
Right.
danger zone metaphor, which is kind of
Mhm.
like a classic model for experiential outdoor education. So, we do an activity where if you think about like there's concentric circles, which basically means a circle inside of a circle.
Right.
And the middle of it is comfort zone. In between the circles is challenge zone, and outside of the circle is danger zone. And a big thing in outdoor programming is challenge by choice. So it's letting people know that when they come on a program, they're never going to be forced to do something. They're
Mhm.
always going to be provided options, and they're going to make the choice themselves. And I think that is really important if you're doing kind of human development work, whether it's with kids or adults, right? Is like you have a choice. You came here, right? So let's figure out what's going to work for you to make it so that you learn something today about yourself and working with other people. And if fear comes up, then we're in a position to process that because they've made the choice to go into that situation as opposed to they've been forced into it. And I think that fear is something where it's a fine line between learning from the situation and it being so overwhelming that you learn nothing. Like you basically learn that you hated it. So my staff, when they're processing fear, it's really about giving people choice, but always saying maybe go one step further than you think you can go, so that you're trying something new and maybe you get fear from that, maybe you enjoy it, whatever it is, but it's more around that model than we're putting you in a situation where you're like going to be scared and then we're going to process that. That's not really our goal per se.
I am so happy and inspired when you do things like that, because it gives people who have fear an opportunity to have success. Success is not, I made it to the top of the rock, mom. Okay, good for you. But success to me is someone who's really, really fearful, who just goes and climbs 3 feet up the rock and comes down. That's, meaning they try it. So, and I like the idea also when you have a fear, just doing little increments. You don't have to like, oh, I remember growing up hearing stories about, oh, if you want to get over your fear, it's like jumping into the lake, just jump into the lake. And it's like, no, that doesn't really work. If anything, it makes you more fearful the next time. So the methods you use are wonderful and really give people the opportunity to grow without panic mode. There's a movie that just came out a couple of weeks ago about a tennis player called Marty Fish, Mardy Fish. It's on Netflix. Highly recommend it. Long story short is this guy became one of the top players in the United States, number 7 or something in the world. And turned out after a number of years, for a big tournament, he was starting to experience a lot of anxiety, which he'd always had his entire life, but it was always pushed down because you can't show fear. That's what we were taught. And lo and behold, he has a full-blown panic attack, and he's playing this match with some guy, but halfway through the match, in the crossover, it kicks in, the panic attack. And he tells a story which resonates with me, where he finished the set, he has no recollection of what happened. And he happened to win. And then the next match his wife says, you don't have to play. And in fact, he bowed out and stayed out of the game for a few years. And he publicized his own story because he had severe stress anxiety disorder, and he wanted people to know that people can learn from it. But I know what it's like to have, be thrown into the deep end, and maybe you survive, but I don't remember. It's like, it's almost a blackout in a sense.
Yeah.
So it's a great movie of how not to lead your life.
Yeah. I actually saw the preview for that last night.
Oh, okay. So you know what I'm talking about.
I didn't watch it, but I was like, this is interesting. I heard him talking about the panic attack, and I think it's great that all the mental health stuff in athletes is coming out into the mainstream now. Like with Simone Biles, is that how you say her name? The Olympic
Biles, maybe.
gymnast, and her bowing out of stuff. I think it's great. My one concern that I see in youth that I really saw a lot of this past season, season being like our season where we take schools outside, is like making sure that kids still know it's okay to take risk and to experience failure, because that's how you learn and grow, versus saying, I'm not comfortable with that, I don't want to do it. I see the pendulum swinging pretty far to the, I'm not comfortable, I don't want to do it, don't push me. And I think that it's a fine line. I think you do need some risk taking and fear and stress and anxiety in your life to learn from those experiences. You can't just live in a bubble, right? So that's something I've been thinking a lot about just from working with kids, which is different than someone who has a real panic attack at a tennis match, or, I'm not trying to discount the experience.
No, for sure.
But as it becomes more mainstream, it's important to teach kids like the difference between one and the other, right?
Yeah, and to me, it even goes, I agree 100%. And the other thing that we didn't talk about is when you can train your mind to be in the moment.
Right.
It's like, I can't be yelling and screaming and cursing you out and at the same time be laughing. They can't get into the same moment. Same thing, when I'm truly in the moment and I'm observing what I am doing 100%, then fear can't get in. It's only when the mind jumps ahead of itself of what could happen, what should happen, that kind of thing. So, but the only way you can do that is through different types of activities like meditation. Meditation doesn't have to be sitting here with your eyes closed, cross-legged. It could be all kinds of meditation, walking meditation, gardening meditation, painting meditation. But the more you can retrain your mind to be in the moment, then I know, for example, when I'm up on the wall, so another climbing example, and I can feel that fear seeping in, boom, I snap back into the moment to do what I have to do.
Yeah.
And the fear stays away. And this is, of course, not in a case where I'm in full-blown panic attack. I can do it there as well, but we don't want to put ourselves into that situation. If you want to get into that situation, then move the circles out a half an inch every day. And then until finally it's not a panic zone anymore. So just that whole in the moment thing, which is so fashionable right now, but if done correctly, it works.
Yep.
And as my teacher, Buddhist teacher Lama Lanong says, the past is history, the future is mystery, and the present moment is a gift.
That's a great one. Which
I love. Past is history, the future is mystery, the present moment is a gift. So I say that, some form of that mantra to myself, and now my wife says it, my mother-in-law, we all have because it just comes up all the time. I'm saying, well, I may not be able to make it then, and then it's like, well, present moment, future, well, what happens if? Well, yeah, we have to prepare, we should plan, but the future's a mystery. We just don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like 70% of the things we worry about never happen to us, right?
I think it's 99%.
99%, whatever it is, whatever percentage it is, it's high for sure.
Yeah. There's a bar chart that I would show in the class where there's two bars. The first bar goes all the way up past the page. The other bars, you could barely see it. The first bar is all the things we worry about. The second bar is all the things we worry about that actually happen. So same thing. And some people say fear can be a good thing in some cases. It triggers fight or flight. Yeah, I guess when the lion is coming to eat you, it's a good thing to run. Fear motivates you. But maybe a clear mind might be better than fear, because maybe you see the situation for what it is and the lion's coming, but maybe he's not coming at you. I don't know. So instead of panicking with a clear mind, you can do what's best for the situation. Instead of fight or flight literally means those are your two options. Yeah.
Well, the other thing is too, is like, so the metaphor people use a lot for that is the fight or flight, like the lion coming to eat you. But realistically, like our body doesn't know the difference between, our brain and body doesn't know the difference between a lion or worrying about a deadline we have at work, or worrying about what's going to happen with our kids. Are they going to be successful in life, or worrying about our health? Like our mind doesn't know the difference. And so what's happening in today's day and age is like, we're worrying about all the stuff that's putting us in fight or flight. That's not fight or flight from a survival situation from when we were Neanderthals, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And that reminds me, because when the zebra sees the lion coming in, the zebra runs, a lot of things happen in the zebra's body. Their digestive system turns off, their reproductive system, their hormone, all these systems shut down, because I don't need those systems to live. And
Right.
if the zebra doesn't live, it's not an issue. And if the zebra lives, then very, very quickly afterwards, could be minutes, the zebra escapes, the lion's gone, all those systems turn back on. Not so with human beings, because we keep that stress at that level. For the lion's gone, there is no lion, it's a dead lion, there's no real lion, but we keep that stress up, and that's highly contributory to that high stress level, to heart attacks, and long list of hypertension, long list of ailments, on why people, lower back pain, stress related, all, and on and on and on.
Yeah. Yeah. Which goes back to, you started asking me about like, why do I love climbing, or why do I have a career where I take people outside? Which is ultimately like, climbing, we're moving, we're meditating, we're exercising. It's great for our health. We get a sense of belonging. So we have community, right? So sense of belonging has been shown to reduce stress levels and anxiety. And then the third piece is now the movement in climbing now is gym. But for me, it's always been go outside and be in a beautiful place. Like yesterday, I was up here in Bishop, California, climbing in a really famous place called the Buttermilks. And I did this problem. It wasn't hard. I got to the top and I was like, man, there's huge mountains in the background with snow on them. And I'm just like, this is it. This is what reduces my anxiety and my stress level and makes me feel normal. And most people don't have that, specifically, I think that is a very privileged thing too. If you're, living in an inner city, where do you go to get that same feeling, but yeah.
Yeah, good point. Excellent point. So I'm pretty much out of questions. I can make some up, which I usually do. Do you have any questions for me? Because last time we did this, you had some questions for me. I know you tried to embarrass me at the end.
I will not embarrass you, but yeah, I think at some point you need to do a podcast on yourself.
Oh, we're gonna have to edit that out, Jonah, by the way.
Yeah, well, because I know for you, right? You have had a lot of different phases in your life. I feel like every time I chat with you, there's a new story about a new business you had or something like that. And I know at one time you were a fast-paced, flashy New York kind of guy.
Yeah.
And then you sort of found, Buddhism and meditation, and it really changed your life. So I think your story would be cool to share with people. How many businesses you had?
I think the last count was 25.
Yeah.
And I don't look at them as, it's a different podcast that we could get into, but in the last 5 or 6 were financially successful. And the first 20, I just learned an incredible amount. So I don't look at them as failures. I just look at them as what I'm able to do now is because I learned so much.
Yeah.
During those experiences, financially, made money, didn't make money. That's almost secondary, as long as, of course, you can survive it, which I did. But yeah, okay. So, well, I'll put that on the calendar.
Yeah. The last question is, so you invited me on today, right? What do you want people to get from, to take away from today's podcast? Or if anything, just enjoy us, talking, or what would be your kind of if people had an aha moment from your podcast, what would it be?
Yeah. At the risk of putting something into people's minds, because I like people to have their own experience when they watch it.
Yeah.
But if I could have, my wish, the reason I'm doing these podcasts is, first and foremost, I'll be honest, they're very inspiring to me.
Yeah.
So as you speak, you have become, I know we're friends for a long time, but you're my hero. Not because you survived some kind of death fall. Good for you. I'm very happy you did. But what you're doing in life by helping other people evolve with their state of mind, there is nothing better, no higher good, I hate to use that word, no better calling than that. So that's inspiring to me, and I hope it inspires other people. That's number one. Number two, if people learn stuff like, oh, don't be so far outside your comfort zone, and I can push you a little bit, and I do this a little bit at a time. Oh, let me start meditating, be in the moment. That's great. Good. I love if they can pick up a couple of things and help them change their life. But I think just to see someone doing what you're doing is really meaningful to me, and hopefully will be meaningful to them, so they could say, hey, wow, I want to do that. Or I really appreciate, because you're a teacher in some sense. You're a coach, you're a manager, you're a businessman, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, you're teaching people how to live a better, healthier, happier, freer. I like the word freer or liberating more than happier life. So that's what I hope people get out of it.
Awesome. Yeah.
Anyways, it was a lot of fun seeing you again. So now the dogs know it's time to, they're applauding.
Wrapping it up.
That's what they're doing now, is they're applauding. And like I said, I hope you've helped viewers have a better understanding. Working with fear and anxiety, it's always good helping others. So thank you very much.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me, Marty. And good luck with the podcasting. And who do you have on next? Do you know?
I think Joe, I forgot how to pronounce the last name, Joe Biden. Yeah, he's on next. Anyways.
He's pitching an infrastructure bill.
Right, he's busy. Again. All right, stay safe. Look forward to seeing you.
Sounds good, thanks. See ya.
All right, bye. I hope you enjoyed our talk with Jered Cherry. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the It's Not What You Think podcast. That really helps us to continue to produce these episodes and invite other guests from around the world. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or would like to hear any specific guests on the podcast, please share my email, mortylevine@gmail.com, or visit mortylevine.com. And remember, it's not what you think.